Well, I finally bit the bullet here. We're upgrading the Mac OS, and then we're going to upgrade Studio One into what's essentially Studio One version 8, which is actually, it's been bought by Fender, so it's called Fender Studio Pro. I thought about going with Apple's Logic, but I do a lot of guitar-based workflows, and I already have a lot of synthesizer options. Now Logic has built-in synth options, but I use a lot of Native Instruments synthesizer stuff. I'll probably end up getting Omnisphere at some point, but if I were to buy Apple's Logic, DAW, of course, that's going to cost a lot, a few $100, and at least upgrading to Fender Studio Pro shouldn't cost very much. I ran across a story, and I run across some of these things, and they're so kind of disturbing and out there. I wonder, should I present this stuff? It's just a story, right? It's just a story. There's no proof. It's an allegation. It's a made-up story involving Tom Hanks. I'll present it, and you be the judge. Remember, it's just a story, just an allegation, right? The story title is Tom Hanks, number 1, Brooklyn, late 2001, early 2002. I was walking south from a friend's apartment in Carroll Gardens towards Red Hook, looking for a subway around 2:30 a.m. I had spent time there after a show at The Hook in Brooklyn. I was walking down Columbia Street, and at the corner where it intersects with Commerce Street, a black SUV pulled up right before I crossed. The light in the back was on, and I could see a driver, 2 men with machine guns. How do you know they're machine guns? Unless he's holding an M249 saw or an M60 or a Browning. How do you know that? Anyway, 2 men with machine guns, 1 white and 1 black, and Tom Hanks sitting between them. I didn't know what to think. Other than that, the men were probably bodyguards. I figured that New York was a big city, and if some random 16-year-old would be coming back from an event at that hour, it stood to reason that a celebrity might too. He called out to me, "Hey, what's your name?" I replied, redacted, "You're Tom Hanks, right?" He smiled, talking to the guy to his left. He recognized me. Check the map. The driver had a GPS mounted on the dashboard and pressed some buttons on it. I asked him if he was coming back from something, and he said, sort of. But really, he was on a bit of a safari hunting black people. I thought he was making a bad joke. "He's black," I pointed to the guard on his left. He said, "Well, Dave's a professional. Isn't that right, Dave?" "Yes, sir," Dave said. I asked him how he could be a part of that. He said that people die all the time. He doesn't know them, so it isn't a big deal. Page 2. As we talked, the driver whispered to Tom, who then interrupted us. "Well, blah, blah, but redacted. I've got good news, I've got bad news." I asked him, "What's that?" "The bad news is that you're in the red zone, which means you're fair game, and I'm going to hunt you. So I'm going to hunt you. The good news is that you remind me of my son, so I'm going to give you a 10-second head start." I froze, asking him, "Are you serious?" He started counting. 10. "Yes, this is serious. Run, blank, run." Run, Forrest, run, maybe. I don't know. I started to run, and as he got to 8, tripped on a rough piece of road and quickly jumped back up. There was a van parked in front of the building on the corner, and I briefly considered hiding under it. Then I heard a voice coming from above and to the right. Come in, come in." There was a loosely chained door opposite the van. It was just open enough that I could slip through sideways if I turned my head and took off my backpack. I knew from his more recent rolls that he had put on some weight and probably couldn't follow me. "Come up, up, up," the voice said, panicking. I didn't see it at first, but there was a rickety stairway that led to a loft that was basically a piece of plywood on scaffolding. A woman with dark curly hair and light brown skin was on the loft with a sleeping bag and ushered me over urgently, but silently. We silently listened for a few seconds and could hear him trying to push through the door. I whispered to, here's the beginning of the third page. I whispered to her, "What is this?" She eyed me suspiciously and asked me if I was part of it. I told her no, and then I was just walking down the street and suddenly Tom Hanks was chasing me with a gun. She asked me how I knew who he was, and I replied that he was one of the biggest movie stars in Hollywood. She said that she didn't watch many white movies, and I tried to think of something she might have seen. As we talked, I could hear Tom conversing with the men, asking if they had any chain cutters in their SUV. They said they didn't, but they could get anything within around 20 minutes. They just had to wait for the ferry. We were close to the ferry for Governor's Island, so I assume that was what they were referring to. He sent one of them on their way to get them, and then leaned against the door, poking the barrel of the gun through. "I can hear you, he said. "Why did you have to come hide in here?" he asked tauntingly. "Would you rather I ran down the open street where you could just gun me down from the car?" "Well, yeah, that's sort of the point. Sorry, if you're going to kill me, I'm not going to make it easy for you. Why are you doing this anyway? You're probably the most famous person in the world. You could do anything." I figured that the longer I kept him distracted, the less likely he would be to kill us or anyone else. Beginning of page 4 now. "It's precisely because I am so famous that I'm doing this," he said. "But if you have to know, I developed a taste for it when we were shooting Saving Private Ryan. I looked at the woman who was pressed against the wall furthest from the edge. That was one of the movies she was aware of." "What, like you wanted to see what it felt like?" I asked. "No, that was all real. And when you experience the thrill of watching the life drain from someone's eyes, you can't top that," he reveled. I edged away from his line of sight and lay flat. "Well, in that case, I hope you understand that I'm going to get out of your line of sight." "But wait, what do you mean it's all real?" "Say I buy that the most famous actor in Hollywood is basically a serial killer. Didn't Steven Spielberg direct that? Weren't there production, crew, extras?" "Steven's just happy with the credit and the paycheck," he laughed. "No, that whole sequence at the start was filmed separately on a beach in Europe. The cinematographer was this experimental Polish director named Janusz Kaminski. They picked him because he had a plan to make it look as real as possible. The people that wanted us to make it saw that America had lost its taste for war, and they wanted to show them something so visceral that they would be willing to sign up. So it was just a recruitment tool and you killed real people? That's sick." He then described in detail how they did it. The production recruited 2,000 to 3,000 poor and homeless men from all over Europe. Just a few from each city, but it added up. They were recruited more as needed. Start of page 5. During production. At the beach where they filmed, they constructed barracks and only gave the extras water that was drugged. So after each day of production, most of them would just have a ghost of a memory of the day before. Since they all spoke different languages and didn't really socialize much with each other, it made it easier for them to exit people as needed. After each day of production, anyone who died or were too injured to continue were loaded into the back of a truck and cremated in an industrial incinerator. The extras weren't given live ammunition, but the Irish Army and others playing German soldiers were. It didn't matter that the men were drugged and scared because that's how they expected them to look. I asked him if any of the other actors had a problem with it. He said one of them did, so they made sure to spin his PTSD from it as a drug addiction, even though the only drugs he had taken were the memory drugs to deal with what he had seen. I asked him why he wanted to kill me if I looked so much like his son. He said that as a parent sometimes he gets frustrated and it's not like he could just kill his son. He pushed against the door further and complained that even if he could get in there, he would be afraid that he would get tetanus, and explained to the guy waiting that the structure shouldn't be there and someone should have knocked it down. The man reminded him that they had a narrow window for the hunt, and Tom told me I was lucky and left. Start of page 6. The woman I was with made a comment about how rich people would get squeamish about something like tetanus, but not killing people. She said this had been going on since the 80s. She didn't realize it was literally celebrities and wealthy people paying to go on safari, but people knew not to stay out too late at night. I asked her if she wanted to make out, which was stupid, and I'm not sure why I asked.
What do you think the chances are of a guy like you and a girl like me?
Maybe she hadn't brushed her teeth and she was self-conscious. At this time, she said absolutely not, that she still wasn't sure if I was part of it.
More like 1 out of 1,000,000.
So you're telling me there's a chance? Yeah!
We heard a burst of automatic fire. It sounded like he did get one person. She gathered up her things and climbed out through a hole in the roof of the building. She told me not to follow her. I told her good luck and stayed in the corner. I waited for at least an hour until it started to get light again. An ambulance pulled up outside around 4:30 a.m. and an EMS got out. He called out to me to come out. I didn't at first because I was afraid that he had a gun. He said he didn't, but if I didn't come out, he would get one of the people who did. At that, I cautiously grabbed my backpack and climbed down, pushing through the door. He held up a canister with a mask attached and told me to inhale and that it would calm me down. Once I did, he started asking me questions. He said that he had a report of 2 people holed up there. He asked me where the other person went. I told him that she left and I didn't know where she went other than the general direction. I asked him what this was. Did the entire police force know about this? He said no. Okay, entire police force and FDNY, fire department, know about this? He said no, and an operation like this only involved around 20 people. The city was divided into zones, start at page 7, and if 911 was called, the people assigned to that zone would be sent out. He then asked me what I was doing before this, and I told him I was walking toward a subway station. He directed me towards one and to keep walking to it as if none of this had happened. He told me I would forget it, but by the time I got home, I still remembered. I tried telling my father about it, but he dismissed it. I don't know what to think. One thing that I found very interesting about this is the format of the writing. It's written by someone who knew how to write. Their use of comma, their use of quotations, their paragraph indents. This was not written by someone who is stupid. That makes me question if there's any validity to it. But then again, maybe it was just someone who was really, maybe it was someone who wrote this for like a film class or something, or I don't know. It seems a little bit too polished, maybe. You may wonder where I got this. I acquired this from a dark hole on the internet. I have no idea what to think. No idea. It seems like it could be accurate. Could be. But it's just a story. It's just someone's words on a piece of paper, some things redacted. It was interesting that, that he spelled out the name of this Polish director, Janusz Kaminski. So if someone just tells you, it's this Polish director, blah, 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 you're not going to know how to spell that right off the bat, most likely, especially not at 16 years old. I wouldn't know how to spell that. I'd have to look it up later. My dilemma is, when I come across some of these things, they could be true, but they're so disturbing, and there are just little things about them that are interesting that who knows? I'm really interested to see what you guys think about it.